might as well know it. She's not going to get away with it. Lorena's here. She's a I'm very late. I apologize. Oh. Group hug. We'll hug out. Okay. Okay, Sandra. Sorry to interrupt that, but...
Hello again. We drove down yesterday. We have a home down here, and we drove down yesterday, and it was an easy drive. It was beautiful. In fact, there was only one tree, and they'd already put it into rounds, and, you know, it looked big enough to cross the corridor. But anyway, it's great. And then we were able to bring our stuff up all those stairs, and it wasn't raining on us, and it was really very easy. So yes, or if I remember correctly, Lincoln City kind of has its own microcosm of weather, so that it seems as though other things can be going on, but it isn't going on here, and this isn't the first time that something like that has been experienced around here, you know, so it's really kind of interesting, the climate dynamic that happens here. So as I was trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to talk to you about, and I knew what health challenges there was with Lorena and with my husband and with different folks, you know, pain, trouble, whatever it might be. And what came to me was that I wanted to speak to you about spiritual strength. It is one of our powers. It's one of our 12 powers. And Andrew is the disciple of that. And strength is represented in our bodies with our loins. I remember one time I moved a piano with my legs. And I also moved other furniture with my legs, because that's where my strength is in my lower part of my body, my physical strength. You know, this is a do-it-yourself society anymore. It's a world, as you and I all know, that we are filled with how to fix things, do it yourself. Everyone else except Oregonians pump their own gas. You know, we do it all anymore. And there's how-to books to fix just about everything under the sun. And I have friends who can fix their own computer. Now, I'm not one of those. You know, I'm the first one to yell help when the thing starts to act up. But self-help books are everywhere. And they address everyone as though they have the answers for us, to fix us. And either that means that we're terribly broken, or perhaps that we are a continual work in progress, depending on how you want to look at it. So now I'm going to add to that mix with my idea of what self-help is, which naturally has a unity perspective. When your body is out of condition, balancing on one foot is very, very difficult. When your life is out of balance, it too is very, very difficult. It sometimes feels like everything has fallen apart. So, ta-da, 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 ta-da. The answer, I believe, is the 12 powers that are within us. I believe that we can get to the root of whatever is ailing us through our own body consciousness. And our inner guidance, our inner self, if you will. So this is all based on Charles Fillmore's writings of the 12 powers. And I imagine that most of you have read the 12 powers. I hope you have. If you haven't, you should pick up one of the books and study it. It is, in fact, one of the things that made unity different than some of the other beliefs, because a lot of people connected to what he was saying in his book. And he wrote about them. They were all present in all of his books in one way or another. But that started with the Christian Healing book, which was written in 1909, and then the 12 Powers of Man in 1930. But the words were eventually changed to read the 12 Powers of Mankind. So the 12 powers each represent a certain stage of spiritual growth. And spiritual growth is the focus for all of us at this time, especially when we are hearing and being inundated with all of the negative things that we're hearing. We must stay spiritually balanced, because this is attacking our very sense of who we are and what is going on. We have to keep our spiritual balance. And we must call upon our own spiritual family to do that. I personally have pulled out of my own heart the consciousness that I will not let politics or negative thinking or unkind words divide me from friends that think differently than I do or family that think differently than I do. I will not allow anything to disrupt my relationship with other people. They do not have that power over me. I have the power to decide how I want to live my life. So as we know, each of these 12 powers represent a spiritual growth within us. And it is something that we get back with in using our balance. Our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional balance. But it's practice. It's something you have to be working at, something that you're conscious of. So Mr. Fillmore says in the book, in the evolving of the Christ consciousness, you reach a stage where the Christ called out his 12 disciples, just as it was acted out in the Gospels, an allegory of something going on in the consciousness. It is already going on unconsciously, and now we want to make it conscious. This is a definite evolution of the soul in our journey through life. Isn't that interesting? It has to do with becoming conscious of that evolutionary force themselves that we sometimes call, managing our own life. Not letting the news media or advertising or the grumpy neighbor next door, we don't allow those people or those situations to create a spiral downward in our life. So in other words, we are in charge of our future, and we are co-creating that future with God. Co-creating with the image and the likeness of God. And the 12 disciples represent the corresponding 12 powers that we're talking about here, and that you'll study if you have an opportunity to do. So today I'd like to take a look at the power of strength. Strength is the second power. Number one power is faith, and I'm going to go over those with you in just a minute. But I want you to catch a glimpse of this extraordinary work of Charles Fillmore. Absolutely extraordinary. And this can be entered into by anyone, a novice, a long-time metaphysical student, a spiritual leader. It's not a disadvantage wherever you are to come into the studying of these 12 powers. And whatever level you come in at. Because it's already going on within each of us. All the time. So wherever you tap into, wherever you start is the perfect place for you to start, because you're already engaged in the process. Whether you're aware of it or not. Whether you know it or not. But it is helpful to know something about it. Mr. Fillmore says, and I quote, "If we know something about the process, if we begin to understand the process even dimly, the outline, for example, who we are, what we are and where we are as spiritual beings on this spiritual journey on earth. Not so much to do with the struggles we go through on this material life, but a work of our souls that experiences this school of life. This is a very brief time. And then eventually we leave this little school of life. And I don't know about you, but I would like to graduate from this grade. I would like to move on to the next level of my evolution. I don't want to repeat this grade again. I don't even know what grade it is, actually. Probably it feels like it's about, what would be the worst? The worst year of my school life was probably the 7th grade. So maybe I don't want to go through the 7th grade again. So here are the 12 powers for those of you that may not know them. Have faith with me if you do know them. There's faith, strength, judgment or wisdom, love, imagination, one of my favorites, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, and life. And these are all inside of you right at this very moment. So are you searching for that perfect answer, that perfect insight, that making your way through a difficult challenge or a difficult situation and want to be more wise and you want to be more guided? Well, where do you look for that guidance? Do you look for them in other people around you, with politics? Do you, I know you're all shaking your head no. With, are you looking all around you trying to find something outside of yourself? Well, the truth is, it's inside of you. It is not outside of you. And I know this isn't any surprise to any of you that are here today. Your true self, your spiritual self, the inner core of you knows the answer to whatever it is that's going on. You know, many athletes succeed because, and John, I know for sure, knows that I'm a sports fan. And we know that they make it, those that do, from consistent practice. They make it from by picturing themselves performing to their highest level. They see themselves, they visualize themselves crossing that finish line or throwing that winning hoop or hitting a grand slam like someone did yesterday and winning the game. They visualize finishing that finish line ahead of everyone else. And athletes are victorious because they give it their all. How many of you know a real athlete? Someone who plays, yes, Terry certainly would. They are focused on that, but what happens is because they're focusing on that one aspect, everything else rises up as well. So if you're focusing on healing an illness, all of the rest of your 12 powers rise up to support you in that growth and in that knowledge that you are well and able to handle. I go to the gym several times each week. So I understand what it's like to work hard, strengthening my muscles and seeing the results from that physical work. And I have practice sessions. I spend time picturing myself completing it successfully, like I've put an extra 2 pounds on something, and I envision myself doing that, raising that up. That 2 extra pounds may not sound like much, but when your muscles are going, they're tired. That's the time you need to work a little harder. When your body is in more resistance, that's true of us. When we are in more resistance to things, that's when we must step more fully into our spiritual strength. And my practice sessions also include prayer and meditation. I do it every day. I begin every single day. And there are some things that I do that can take me back to prayer and meditation just like that. And one of them is the bicycle. I hate the treadmill, pardon the word. I should say I dislike the treadmill. So I don't get on the treadmill anymore. But I do like the incumbent bike. They're very comfortable. And I can go into a prayer and meditation time just so fast, because my body is engaged, the blood is circulating, I'm breathing deeply, all the things that we know are possible within us. And so I, in fact, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. My phone is programmed to beep every 2 hours from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. It beeps so that I will stop whatever it is that I'm doing, take 3 deep breaths, and remember that I'm in the presence of God. So I do that consciously 6 times a day, and of course I do it other times of the day as well. But more often than not, I'm in the middle of something that I'm a long way away from the presence of God when that beeper goes off. And boom, I'm back. That's part of spiritual strengthening. That's part of the awareness that God is present in my life. And I consider that to be a major part of my workout. Every day, mentally, physically, of being disciplined and exercising my spiritual strength. So this allows me to tap, and all of us to tap into that unlimited strength and unlimited wisdom of God within us. God created a perfect universe in balance and in harmony. We all know that. Life is the representation of all that is good. I said to John this morning when I walked in, oh, I am so grateful for this body that carries me through this world, that I thank God every day for creating this body for me to express out through it. That's very humbling, that I express God through this body. This perfect universe that we live in, and life is the representation, no matter what the outward appearance is, it is the representation of everything that's good. Everything. And we know that it's God-given. And we know that life must be lived through a thankful heart. I just want you to hear the 12 powers again. And Charles said, what man is developing out of mere personal consciousness into spiritual consciousness, he begins to train deeper and larger powers. He sends his thought down into the inner centers of his organism, and through his word quickens them to life. So here are the 12 powers, the faculties that we call them, the nerve centers at which they reside, and the disciple in which they represent. Faith is Peter. That's number 1. I'm doing these in order. So faith is the first power. It is the Peter, and it is the center of the brain. Strength, as I said, is Andrew, and it's in the loins. Discrimination or judgment is James, the son of Zebedee, is at the pit of the stomach. How many of you have ever had a kick in the stomach because your spiritual strength is telling you might want to take another look at that? John, of course, is love, and that's at the back of the heart. Power is Philip, and it's at the root of the tongue. And as you've heard me say before, the tongue, words, are the most powerful thing that we have. We must be very careful about our words. How many of us have been really, literally cut to shreds by someone else's words? Imagination is Bartholomew, and it's between the eyes. Understanding is Thomas, and it's at the front brain. Will is Matthew, and it's in the center of the brain. Order is James, the son of Alphaeus, and then that's at the navel. Zeal is Simon the Canaanan, back of the head, the medulla. Renunciation or elimination is Thaddeus. That's the abdominal region. Life is Judas, and that's the generative function. It says in Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. She him. Humankind. I once experienced a time in my life when I was, I felt overwhelmed by the tasks that were before me. I was making life changes and did not know if I had the strength to carry on. I was unclear what my next step was going to be. I'm going to be looking at my notes while I'm saying this because there is so much I could say about this that might not be appropriate. So you can laugh at that. And so I'm going to stick to my own script here a little bit because I don't want to go off into left field very far. So I was unclear what my next step was to be, and one day when I was praying, it occurred to me that I was not giving God a chance to work. That I wasn't giving her a chance to work in my life because I was thinking I had to know all the answers. That I had to know it all right now. And of course I didn't, so I was feeling totally out of control. And that was when I decided that I needed to strengthen my faith in order to believe that there were answers and resources beyond my wildest imagination. I started counting my blessings every day, expressing gratitude for God for what I had in my life, which was fairly minimal at that point, and affirming that all would be revealed to me with perfect timing. So I listened carefully to my thoughts and changed my negatives to positives. I truly surrendered. You'll just have to trust me on this. I truly surrendered the outer appearance to God. And I accepted that I was free to either be happy and have faith or be miserable. The circumstances were mine, and I could choose to respond to them in whichever way I chose. There were numbers of options. And as I asked God's assistance and gave thanks every day, miraculous things began to happen. And again, you'll have to trust me. One of those miracles was bringing me to Oregon. I was at peace, and I knew that all would be resolved, that all would be okay, to feel stronger and stronger in my own personal ability to make the right decisions. Doors started to open for me, incredible things that I won't go into now, but amazing things that began to happen. And it was knowing that my success was the result of my belief that I had finally honed my belief in the power of God. Even when the appearances were not favorable. And so as I read the 12 powers to you, I imagine, like most of us, you might not be sure which of the 12 powers you have developed in your own life. I can see that each of us has different strengths and different characteristics. And so I have not considered trying to develop a particular set of powers for myself. I have just gone on through my intuition, developing the power that I feel is the weakest within me at the time. And they generally pair up. And if you read the book, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you're in love, you may need strength, because you might be falling in love with someone that really isn't in your best interest. So you need to have, you need to figure out where they match up. What is a coalition between the two? And it makes sense to work on growth in that way. And you do that again through your prayer and meditation. You ask through prayer for God to reveal what work needs to be done, and then you take the action. You use the Holy Spirit, and you take the action. I'd love to be able to avoid getting caught up in the moment-by-moment distresses of the world making me feel insecure and unacceptable. But I do know that the outer is an illusion. I can bring myself back to that. I may not be able to bring myself back to it in a moment's notice, but I could definitely come back around, realizing that that's not really the truth. God is there. God is there. Wherever you are, God is there. In this sacred space, yes, of course, but in your homes, in your cars, in your neighborhoods, in your city, your state, your world, God is there. The rest is an illusion. And I continue to turn this illusion over to the Christ within me. And that takes practice. Because I know at one level, faith makes all the difference. There are times when no one else can teach me what I already know. But if I hear it, I will, like a light will go on, and it will go, oh, that's what I'm forgetting. So I'm always so grateful for those that teach me, that step forward in my life in a word or a telephone call or an email or a bumper sticker or whatever it might be. I thank God for those messages because they quicken me into my own faith again. They redirect me and in my trust of God, and they redirect me into my spiritual realm. But of course, I still struggle with the ideas from time to time. So today's affirmation for us is, I have faith in divine mind as omnipresent, all-loving, all-powerful all-powerful spirit. And we all experience one or more of these 12 powers. When we recognize that the spiritual basis for all is our own characteristics. Our own characteristics. So my personal reflection in closing is, I want to have a faith that does not waver. And I want to develop all of the 12 powers within me as best I know to do now. And I know that God within me is the source of my spiritual strength. Blessings to you all. So now let's have a little prayer time. Let's do the good stuff. Let's lift some of those strong spiritual weights and get into the practice of going deep within us and listening to the very center core of us. Because we are the imitation, the image of God. So take those breaths, get centered inside your own body. Direct that breath to whatever it is that feels like it may need some attention. If your knee hurts, send some oxygen, some breath, the Spirit of God into that area of your body. And no matter how I thought my life was in the past, today I will hold on to the reality of my very being. I will hold before my heart and my mind the realization that I am created in that image of God. And I will remember that my mission is to represent God, to give expression to Divine Spirit's qualities of love and faith and power and joy and wisdom and imagination. I am the image of God. Therefore, I am the image of love. the image of life. I am the image of faith. I am the image of power. I am the image of joy. I am the image of wisdom. God is love. And through the Christ Spirit in me, I am loving. Creative Spirit is life. And through that Spirit in me, I am faithful. God is power. And through that creative Spirit, I am powerful. And God is joy. And through God's Spirit, I am joyful. God is wisdom. And through divine Spirit, I am wise. I am the image of God. And today, this moment, I will endeavor to express that image and that likeness. I will endeavor to express that love and that perfection in all ways. And so it is. In the name of that God essence that we call life. Amen. I ask you to take a few deep breaths and start to come back into the room with your heart filled with gratitude, with your heart filled with radiant, vital, dynamic health, with your heart filled with a song of joy of some kind or another, whatever resonates with you. You might start singing it on your way out the door today, or right now if you wanted to. So thank you. And I guess I get to do, there's Alan is doing music, yeah? Okay.
Calling your name as a child. are given a choice to open our hearts to the wild and free. You and me, let it be. Outside on the streets, there are children playing. All generations before, dancing to the beat of what tomorrow may bring. With love we can help them adore. At any given moment you can hear the voice calling your name as a child. At any given moment we are given a choice to open our hearts to the wild and free. You and me, let it be. As a child, deep in the forest, a river